Today on Grand Thumb, we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic. Right here we have the old helmet, the ECH, which was an excellent combat helmet. Right here we have the Army's new combat helmet, the IHPS. There's been a lot of talk. The IHPS is a lighter helmet. The IHPS also is a ballistically improved helmet from the ECH. Now, the ECH was a really good helmet. A lot of good saves in theater. The IHPS is a little bit more untested, so we're gonna do what we do best here on Grand Thumb, and we're gonna test the helmet. Does it live up to the Army's claims? Micah?
Probably not.
What if it performs just as well as Russia's helmet? Today on Grand Thumb, are we gonna be sad? But before we get into it, we have to thank who, Micah?
Sonoran Desert Institute.
Because they are so awesome. They have sponsored the channel for a long time now. And if you're looking to get your start in gunsmithing, they are the people to go to. We cannot thank them enough. Go and check them out. They are just, we love them. Yeah, even though we botched their name, and I'm sure they've gotten a little angry about that, we just love them. And next up, of course, we have our favorite optic manufacturer, Primary Arms. A big thank you to Primary Arms. They have provided optics, they have been hooking us up, and they sponsor the channel, so we cannot thank them enough. And they, today...
it is the Nerds Rope.
And
I think their customer service hates us.
They really, actually, we did have a call with them. They're not happy. And of course, unlike the camera this is filmed on, the TV that you're watching this on, the cars that, well, unless you have an American-made car, AAC ammunition is made in the US of A. We have to thank them for sponsoring the ammo. They absolutely rock. Let's get into it. So when it comes to the IHPS, a couple improvements have been made, so we'll talk about those very quickly. With the older ECH, there was a lot of complaints about comms compatibility. It is definitely doable. You can wear your pelters under there, just requires some reconfiguration of your helmet. With the new IHPS, there is a mount specific from Pelter that allows your pelters to sit under. Again, they're trying to keep more kind of head protection compared to like the higher cut helmets like we're seeing, like that I'm wearing right here from OpScore. And then in addition to that, there's less bolts through the actual helmet itself. The main bolt that you have is for the NVG mount. Now we compare that to the ECH right here, and you can see we have multiple bolts for the harness system that is on the helmet as well as for the NVG bracket. And that also goes for the OpScore helmets as well. The idea being that the less holes that you have through the material, the less compromise it is going to be. Other helmets have taken this approach before, such as the Safariland Delta X and others. I'm very interested to see how this particular helmet performs. It's 5% lighter while offering the same or better protection. Most of the protection from the IHPS comes from blunt force trauma. That's stuff that we really can't measure on this channel. We don't have the equipment for it. But it's supposed to have slightly better ballistic protection. Honestly, I would be happy if it just had the same ballistic protection because the ECH was a wonderful combat helmet. Both of these helmets are made by Ceradyne, always has been. You can put up the meme. It's all Ceradyne? Always has been. So, talk is cheap though. Ammunition is super, actually sponsored by AAC. So let's get into it. Let's start shooting these helmets and let's see how they do. So how we're gonna be doing this is each helmet is going to be taking the same round at hopefully roughly the same place. Am I a good shot, Micah?
Good enough.
Good enough. So I'll try to do my best. Understand that the IHPS is of course going to have, has a little bit more hardware on it. That hardware obviously is gonna do more to stop some rounds. It's not a perfect test, but it's pretty good. I'm gonna do my best to hit the ballistic portions of the helmet. We're gonna start with 22. This is a very easy caliber that should be stopped by pretty much every helmet, with the exception of the airsoft helmet. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna send it. Let's go check it out. Okay, so we have taken the shots at the 22. We're gonna go ahead and set that to the side. We will take a look and see what kind of back face deformation we have. When a round impacts, you obviously wanna stop the round, but if the helmet caves in into your brain, you're still dead, so you don't wanna have any back face deformation. With the 22, I expected 0, we got 0 on the IHPS. We pull this cover up right here. Yeah, so this was more of an oblique angle than we saw at the ECH. As you can see, the round just skipped right off. That is by design. on the ECH, we actually had a little bit more deformation than the IHPS. It's very interesting. So you can see right there.
Like significantly more.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I've seen a lot of testing that has seemed to show that the ECH would be performing better. That might not be the case. Very interesting. Let's step it up. 9mm. Okay. Next up, we have the Sandhawk. It's a 9mm. It looks fancy, but a 9mm is a 9mm, as long as you have the same barrel length. So we're not getting any crazy velocity. This is military 124. Very common to be encountered in a battlefield. We'll see how it does. I'm very surprised right now the IHPS did so good on the 22. I will try to get the same impact. So first off, we have the ECH. We have a hit right above the rail there. At first, a little bit alarming, just a straight hole into there. However, it completely stopped it. So we have some back face deformation right here. The question is, how does this compare to the ECH? So it definitely stopped the round. With the padding, survivable for sure. All right, so we have the impact on the ECH, very similar entrance, very similar back face deformation. It's too close to call, in my opinion. They seem very, very similar. It should be noted too that this ECH is a size small. That being said, there's no difference in the ballistic protection that they're both going to offer other than weight. So yeah, very interesting. It would seem to be so far that they are performing the same while the IHPS is a lighter design. So very, very good so far. Next up, what we're gonna be doing is a 44 Magnum. That's very common because 44 Magnum is used in NIJ testing. Okay, we have a 44 Magnum right here. This is a Korth revolver, which sounds like I'm saying coarse, but I'm Mike Tyson. So we have the 44 Magnum hit right here on the IHPS. And if we roll it over, now we do have back face deformation from the 9mm as well. Pretty significant. That would present a problem on the human skull. This is pretty consistent with combat helmets and how they perform, in that they can stop larger calibers, but at further distances, at oblique angles. This would obviously be a save. You would be in the hospital for a while. And how would Charlie say it?
Hey,
I don't know what he says.
A lot of things.
He says a lot of things. He says something about like potato-headed. I can't remember what he said. Something about Russians.
Oh, they have Russians have the stupid little square heads with the small eyes.
ECH, I hit lower, which presented a problem. The closer you get to the edge, as you can see here, it just pretty much pushed it out and then was able to slip through. So we are going to redo that shot. I'm thinking that the ECH is likely going to perform as good. Unfortunate. I wasn't good enough, Micah. He's a vegetable now. You know what the hardest part about eating a vegetable is?
What?
The wheelchair. We have our back face deformation, which is very comparable to the IHPS. This being a little bit less due to the fact that we already did have some back face deformation with the 9mm round on the IHPS. But so far, they are performing roughly the same right now. I'm pleasantly surprised that, so far a pretty good helmet. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna step it up to rifle rounds. Helmets aren't specifically rated for rifle. There are a few, but they're not rated for like any type of normal round. Usually it's like a lead core type round. Helmets do have a lot of saves on rifle rounds, but it's typically from oblique angles or from very far away. Next up, we have the AKM, the most common rifle in the world. If you're going to encounter any rifle, a very high likelihood that it will be an AKM. So we'll talk about the ECH first. These helmets are getting shot a lot, so we have certainly compromised some structural integrity, but you can see it bulged out. The round was not caught, exited into the brain, and yeah, that's a close range rifle shot. At longer range, it's going to perform better and will likely catch or deflect the round, but at close range, it's not really a whole lot you can do to stop yourself from getting killed by a rifle round through your helmet. It's just kind of the end. Also, that back face deformation is also lethal as well. Right here, we have the IHPS. We have the entrance right here. We do have no exit. It did catch the round. It did perform better than the ECH. That being said, the amount of deformation that we do see is enough to be lethal. However, it did stop the round. So I would say overall that indicates that the performance at longer range is going to be some amount better than the ECH, which is quite surprising because, again, ECH is a really good helmet, has been used for a very long time. So that is very surprising. I did not expect that at all. I'm
baffled. Like, I'm baffled.
Yeah, I'm very interested. I really want to try a longer shot on the IHPS. The ECH, we can try a longer shot on, but I really want to see the performance of a rifle round at longer range. So we are at 300 right here. The 300 is a bit of a difficult shot, however, could certainly occur. So we're going to see how the helmet will perform. And this is going to be 5.56 out of a 12.5. Pretty good velocity. This is an LMT Spec War. Got it. Yes. So there are a lot of different rounds of 5.56, so you're going to have a lot of different results depending on what you're using. I think if we had used M855, M855 Alpha 1, a lot of the typical rounds that are used in war, which is the SS-109 projectile, it's that 62 grain projectile with that steel insert for extreme, you can say it, Micah? Penetration, there you go. With different rounds, you're not going to have as good, so we're using rounds with less penetration here. But on the ECH, you can see we have that nice little hole right there. And then it caught it with not too much deformation. Again, I believe this would have been way worse had we used a round with a penetrator of any type. And then we had roughly the same result with the IHPS. The difference being with the IHPS, it's a little bit harder to tell since we'd already had deformation there. Point being that these helmets will make saves on rifle rounds at longer ranges. It's pretty typical of, by the way, the blood on these helmets is from the blood from the ECH from earlier. But there are multiple cases of rounds traveling into helmets and traveling through the air mid, through whatever material it is, and then exiting out, so where they actually don't make contact with the person's brain, they just travel through the ballistic material. It's very odd, but there are a lot of saves when it comes to these helmets. So we mostly have the backs mostly intact, so I definitely want to try out shotguns and for good measure an SVD, just at close range, just to finish it off, why not? Next up, we have the Benelli M4 with Federal Flight Control, a pretty commonly used 12 gauge round, and we'll see how it performs. You guys ready? So we have the IHPS. We had almost all 9 pellets enter the back of the helmet right there. They were caught by the material, however, that is potentially lethal back face deformation. Getting hit with buckshot, bad day. Point of all this is don't get into a gunfight with Marines because they tend to have those M1014s. Yeah, pull. I think I missed that.
Throw it this way.
Yeah, I'm throwing it this way. Nice. All right, we have an SVD. It is a clone, but it is made in Ismatch factory. Basically an SVD, a little bit shorter of a barrel. This is a very bad case scenario, which is taking an SVD round. Thought we'd finish it with something fun. You ready?
Yep.
Predictably, a FMJ 7.62 by 5.4R is going to go straight through a helmet. So we've done a lot of shooting. Let's go ahead and let's wrap this up. Let's talk about the performance overall. So we've done a lot of testing. How did it perform? The ECH performed very well. It's about what we expected to see. The ECH is a well-proven combat helmet, and like the results that we saw with it. I had a lot of questions about the IHPS, specifically because I've seen Oxide's video where it really didn't perform all that well. I think this can be chalked up to a couple things. One, types of rounds used, and then two, generation of helmet used. But overall, I think it should be noted that the IHPS performed very well. I'm very pleased with the types of performance that I'm seeing from it, and especially given the claim of blunt force trauma that it does better with that. I'm very much so inclined to believe that this is a definite improvement over the ECH. I have no dog in the fight. I'm not a guy to shill for the US government at all, but I do believe in this case that we do have a better helmet that is lighter, that is providing more capability. So I have to say that the IHPS, in my mind, is a clear winner. Micah?
Yeah, especially with some of the stuff we saw going for it. I was a little bummed out, but it's a good helmet. It's a good helmet.
It's a good, solid combat helmet. We'll see how long it stays in service and what conflicts it participates. But yep, we have the IHPS, and that kind of brings us down to the end. Ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of good helmets out there. What we're always going to say on this channel when it comes to ballistic helmets is use good, reputable companies. Ceradyne with their IHPS, with their ECH, are great helmets. You can get ECH helmets for really not that expensive. If you want to spend a little bit more money, you do have OpsCore, you have Team Wendy, both of which make very good high-cut helmets where it's easier to get those comms on there. However, you do lose a little bit of protection. However, with the OpsCores, you also have better at the back of the head protection. So there's always some trade-off somewhere in the shell design. Find the helmet that's going to work for you, but most importantly, buy it from a reputable manufacturer. We do not recommend Chinese-made helmets just due to quality control issues. If you're gonna trust your life to something, spend a little bit more money to save yourself. That goes for armor as well. Guys, as always, all this is cool, but get training. You can have the coolest helmet in the world, but if you have not gone out and for a day trained with your boys and had a good time and gone into the mountains and seen how you react when you're wearing a helmet for months on end, when you're sweating in it, then it doesn't matter. Get training, tons of great places to get training from, vet them, get out there, hang with the boys. That is always a good time. And as always, we have nothing else for you. Final thing for you guys, I'm gonna say it again because this comes right down to helmets. That is fitness. You need to be fit. If you truly believe in the Second Amendment and you know what it's for, which is resisting a tyrannical government, you need to have some order of fitness, because if you're not fit, you're gonna die.